think that you just satisfied the last requirement for graduation.
Yeah.
What do you want to sync up our? Oh, make sure everything is synced up.
We're good.
This one, small start.
And what button did you press, really?
Source.
Let the games begin.
Good morning. We are Marist College undergraduates. My name is Rachel Pfister. I'm a senior business marketing major.
Hi, my name is Amanda Signer. I'm a senior political science major.
Hi, I'm Joe Thiel, and I am also a senior political science major.
Hi, I'm Ben Del Giorno. I'm a senior finance major.
Hi, I'm Maura Sullivan, and I'm a junior business finance and economics major.
And we, as employees of CNN, would like to address you as the board of directors on our topic, Keeping Up with the Candidates, CNN's balance between profit and social responsibility. So first, just an overview of what we'll be speaking about today. First, we'll go into the background of the problem, including the problem statement as well as public perception, and then we'll move on to the financial, legal, and ethical issues involved in this case.
Just moving into the background of the current political environment and CNN's role as the gatekeeper of information and the source of political discourse for many Americans across the United States. The 2016 election has been one of the most chaotic in terms of topics discussed, increasingly dramatic and sensationalized headlines. So as CNN, known as one of the more mainstream or seen as an objective news source for many people, we want to kind of observe our role in this chaotic environment in terms of policy and how we're marketing our coverage and our topic on our debates. So in just pure imagery and advertisements, here we see a screenshot taken from the GOP debates coverage of Carly Fiorina, and this was taken from a commercial that was shown in order to market one of the first debates. I think it was September 16th. And to the right, we see an ad taken from a Floyd Mayweather fight. They're very similar just in terms of visuals alone, but what this says is that CNN is kind of favoring a sensationalized marketing tool in order to draw people into these debates rather than that of policy or of the topics that are going to be discussed in the debate.
So as Amanda has just discussed, CNN does pride itself in remaining as an objective news source and delivering this information to the public. And as you can see, just very briefly, we're going to run through some images of things that have been run on CNN. So this is just a personal issue between Meg Kelly and Donald Trump. And we just want to point out that it is not relevant to discuss in the democratic process because it doesn't contribute anything to the issues that need to be discussed in a debate. The next image just portrays a countdown clock leading up to the debate, similar to those that they have with award shows. And again, it's just not relevant to be counting down to a debate 46 hours prior to running it. It just doesn't seem to be relevant for us to be streaming this countdown clock. And a final image just shows the sensationalism of the democratic process and how we shouldn't be bringing in outside issues to portraying this information to the public as remaining an objective news source. This leads into our problem statement of should CNN continue to profit from debate sponsorship and primary debates at the risk of inaccurately sharing information to the public and feeding into public spectatorship of debates. And in our presentation, we will just take you through the legal, financial, and ethical standpoints of this issue.
So we think one of the key factors in this is also our social responsibility that we have to the public and our viewers in providing information that they need in order to be intelligent voters and effective in their part of our electoral process. So I think it's important to kind of look at, as the sensationalism in the media is increasingly happening, how this is changing the public's perception of political wisdom within society, and also to who they're relying on for information. So if we look at this graph, it gives us a percentage of voters who have a great deal or a good deal of confidence in the political wisdom of the American public. So we're increasingly seeing this confidence in the public's knowledge about the political process and these candidates decrease. So in October of 1997, 69% of Democrats had this very good or good deal of confidence, and this number has decreased to 32% now in the March 2016 election. So we do think that this trend is also following the over-sensibilization in the marketplace with the marketing of these debates as our coverage goes more towards these personality conflicts. We are seeing a decrease in the confidence of this political wisdom. So we also need to note to our board of directors that many people are coming to our network to get this political information. So if we look at those who believe that which source of information is the most helpful for their political, to making these political decisions, many people are relying on cable news. So 24% of the public believe that cable TV news is one of the most helpful sources of getting this information about the political process. So especially as our network, we have an obligation to this public to provide this information. So people are seeking us out. They have confidence in our ability to educate them about the political process. So if we are indulging in some of this sensationalization, we do believe that they are having, we may be letting them down because they do have a great deal of confidence in us. So also increasingly, we are seeing that there is an area where people are looking for these important policy debates to be happening, and they're not being provided right now in our current market. So if you look at, this is a poll taken of those who say that whether the campaign has been focused on important policy debates. So 58% of the public has actually found during this political process that is not focused enough on important policy debates. So we do think that we are, our coverage is impacting this, and we also acknowledge that this may create a market for us to potentially capitalize on, where right now there is no one else in the market having these important policy debates. So we think this is a growth opportunity for us. So we also think, though, another contributing factor to this lack of democratic knowledge is the rise of super PACs, and we think, especially with CNN, we have a vested interest in these rises because of the advertising that these super PACs have done on our network. So we do want to just make a quick distinction about political action committees versus super PACs. So political action committees, individuals can directly donate to campaigns, and most of the PAC contributions are limited to $5,000 per individual donating. So the distinction then for a super PAC is that a super PAC is an organization which can work on political issues but cannot coordinate or donate directly to campaigns. And this, for super PACs, individual contributions are not capped. And also too, these super PACs do not have to disclose who is donating to their political action committee. So we think that this is problematic because we also have many of these super PACs advertising with our networks, especially during our debate coverage time. So we think that this is particularly challenging for our viewers because they cannot be confident about the sources of information and the messages that they're putting forward. So we're just going to take you quickly just through some examples of super PAC ads and how we do think that they're increasing this polarization in the political process and how they may not be best for our democratic knowledge. So this is an ad that pro John Kasich ad had taken out about Ted Cruz. So it's a little about the issues. They are making some reference to some potential what they perceive as lies that he had put out. But again, it's characterization. We don't feel that it is something that it's really trying to capture audiences rather than really inform them about important policy decisions. So this one is an ad taken against candidate Donald Trump, but specifically I want to point out this bottom disclaimer where it does say which super PAC took out this ad, and it provides a link for people who want to get more information, but our average viewer who is watching a debate and may see this ad, all they know is that it's from this organization, Club for Growth Action. there's little information about who is supporting this super PAC. There's little information about what their ulterior motives is or any candidates that they're supporting. So we do think that whereas a candidate that's advertising on our network, it's clear what their objective is and what they want the viewer to understand from their message. These messages from super PACs are very unclear, and the public does not have the ability to process this information and understand kind of what the advertiser is trying to target them for. We're also seeing particularly an issue where the parties are taking out super PAC ads to actually challenge each other and directly mislead the public. So this was an ad that was actually taken out against Bernie Sanders in Iowa. So it was actually run by a Republican super PAC, and it says that Bernie Sanders is too liberal for Iowa, and preceding this clip, there was a number of policy proposals from Bernie Sanders that would actually appeal to a mainstream progressive base. So what this ad was actually targeting was to get Bernie Sanders' message out there, and Republican operatives found this as an opportunity to take votes away from candidate Hillary Clinton, because the Republicans perceived Hillary Clinton to be a more difficult candidate to face in the general election. They're trying to prop up another candidate. So we are seeing kind of political maneuvering between the parties to use these super PACs to persuade and dissuade and persuade the public.
In moving into our solution, we want to focus on the ethical dilemma that CNN faces between the incentive to increase profit, to allow these super PAC ads and kind of the spectator sport of politics on their network as almost a cheap profit grab, versus their corporate social responsibility and their duty to become this gatekeeper of information and increase democratic knowledge and to be a source of public policy debate on the network. So within our solution, we do find that eliminating commercial or political advertisements as a whole on the network is simply unrealistic, although it may be ideal. So we're going to instead propose the elimination of super PAC ads on our network as a tool to decrease this political maneuvering that we're seeing currently. And instead, we're going to increase socially responsible advertisements and information on candidates to the public, rather than this cheap profit grab that we're seeing today through on-air broadcasts and changing the way that we market our debate coverage. Instead, CNN will continue to market these advertisements at market rates across other networks that also are being a source or the network that also has debate coverage. They're also increasing their airtime, the price per advertisement during airtime. So we're going to increasingly follow market rates for the advertisements. Instead, we're just going to be more socially responsible in what we're broadcasting and how we're marketing our debate coverage and information that we're giving to the public.
So while this largely is an ethical dilemma, there are several financial implications associated with it. So I'd first like to give a brief overview of the organizational structure of CNN and how it fits in with its parent companies. So Turner Broadcasting is CNN's direct parent company, and Turner is a division of Time Warner. And CNN represents approximately 7% of Time Warner's overall value and has projected revenues of $1.65 billion, so it is a significant portion of Time Warner's overall value.
And in addition to what Ben has just discussed, we just want to take you briefly through the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats portrayed by CNN. So although we do recognize that we do have many strengths and many threats facing us in the environment, we wanted today to focus on the weaknesses and capitalize on those weaknesses through opportunity. So one weakness that is presented is the marketing of the debates and portraying this as a political spectacle in the environment. So by recognizing that we don't want to be more favoring one side, we want to be more objective in presenting our information, that presents opportunity over our competitors in the environment of portraying these democratic debates.
So one of the most important financial aspects of this dilemma is the price of advertising spots on CNN's network during the debates. If we take a look, CNN has increased its advertising fees by 40 times or 4,000% during the debates, from an average of $5,000 during regular television programming to $200,000 during the debates. And it is important to note that this is the going market rate during debate time. But we feel that CNN has an obligation to not utilize super PAC ads to drive profits through their advertising revenue. So as a business, CNN is of course entitled to drive profits. They have a right to do so, and they also have an obligation to their shareholders to make money and increase the price of their stock. However, we feel that CNN should be doing so in an ethically and socially responsible manner. Just as there are socially responsible and ethical ways to report the news, we feel that there are socially responsible and ethical ways to make money. And we feel that by CNN eliminating super PAC ads, it would increase their social responsibility to not only their shareholders, but also the greater American public. And now on the screen, we have a screenshot of CNN's, or Time Warner's stock price following the December 15th, 2015 debate. And if you take a look at the black dot on the screen, following it, there is a slight increase in the stock price of Time Warner. While this is a slight increase, we don't feel that it's material enough or significant enough that it would be impacted if we remove super PAC ads from the debates. We feel that by doing so, it's not going to impact the value of Time Warner shareholders' stock, and we think that this would be a viable decision financially and socially moving forward. Again, we have a screenshot of the March 6, 2016 debate, illustrating again a slight uptick following the black dot on the screen. Again, we don't feel that this increase in stock price is material or significant enough where removing super PAC ads would have a significant impact on shareholders' value of their stock. CNN also does have profit incentives in the increasing viewership throughout the debates and also the broader coverage of the primary process. In the first GOP debate, CNN had over 23 million viewers, which set a record for viewership during the debates. And also during the first quarter of this year alone, CNN had an increase of 22% in their viewership, which is substantial. There are several implications associated with eliminating super PACs from our lineup of advertisements. One of them being potential for a slight decline in revenue, but we feel with the current demand for advertising during our debates, that would be easily replaced in a quick manner. Also, we would implement a strategy to attract more objective advertising and more traditional advertising that does not illustrate subjection in its overall message that it's trying to get across in terms of the organization's mission. And also, it is important to note that commercial limitations have not hindered CNN previously in the past. In the 1990s, CNN removed several energy-related advertisements from its lineup of ads because it felt that the advertisements were skewing public perception on global warming. So CNN actually removed the ads from their air, and there was not a significant impact to the bottom line. So we feel that by removing the super PAC ads, we're also not going to see a significant impact to the bottom line at CNN and Time Warner. There are implications associated with implementing an objective marketing strategy. We really see this as an opportunity for CNN to capitalize on. They would really be the first to market in the US news and media industry in terms of reporting objective news and not introducing any sort of bias or partisan relationship. And we also see this as a significant profit growth opportunity in terms of CNN capitalizing on its strengths, its brand image, its commitment to being an objective and nonpartisan sort of media organization. And we feel that moving forward, CNN can actually capitalize on its ability to report and market the debates in a non-partisan, non-biased, and objective manner.
Building off of that, we feel as though public perception supports this theory. As you can see from the graph here, overall throughout the past two election cycles, we've seen an alarming decrease in the public's perception of the usefulness of campaigns. As CNN obviously has a huge ethical responsibility to report on elections, campaigns, the debate process, this the detachment that we see the public is getting from its usefulness may have implications for us if the public then chooses not to follow coverage on CNN. This may hurt us unless we implement such a strategy in really marketing ourselves as the objective news source in the United States. And we feel as though this will really affirm CNN's status as probably the most objective currently in the United States when you look at the major networks that we follow today, there isn't one clear choice. CNN may be the closest, and that is what it prides itself on being, but we feel that through implementing our solution, this would reaffirm CNN's status, and this is also culturally accepted in other areas. So the BBC is probably the most well-known objective news source in the world, and it is pretty successful at reporting the news in a socially responsible manner, as well as being successful profitably. And CNN has this opportunity to market itself as the American BBC and institute that in its brand image and also in its ethical code.
So we'd like to also take you quickly through the legal background that has kind of made this media circus able to happen. So we do think that this is a larger part of a story of deregulation, which has allowed the media to have an increased role in the public debate stage and also within political coverage. So we're going to take you through just kind of the fairness doctrine, equal access laws, and then also our limitations on ads. To kind of go through the fairness doctrine, this is a FCC, Federal Communications Committee, a policy which was enacted in 1949, and it stated that broadcasters must devote airtime to discussing issues of public interest. So it mandated all networks to have not only issues that are important to the public, but also provide contrasting viewpoints to the public about these issues. So this law was forcing networks to have this objectivity. However, though, this is something that was supported by the Supreme Court, so that there isn't necessarily any constitutional limitations on it. But as part of this story of deregulation, in 1987, the FCC voted to eliminate the fairness doctrine. So this is not something that networks are subject to anymore. So as we're seeing kind of this increased partisanship within the media, we think this is directly a result of some of these deregulation steps taken in the 1980s.
So building off of the fairness doctrine, the equal access laws, just a brief overview of what they are. If a news network were to run a commercial favoring one side of the debates, they would have to also run another commercial on the other side. But however, the Democratic debates are bona fide news events, so that means that they are exempt from these rules. So as you can see from the slide, this just also aids into the deregulation of the democratic process and really allows CNN to really run whatever that they want during these democratic debates.
Yeah, so I think it's important to kind of just expand upon that a little bit further, where rulings were taken by the FCC to actually begin to move the debates away from something that would be subject to equal access laws and offer each candidate the opportunity to be on stage for the debate. And it's something also kind of to our new mark where the networks are left alone to kind of really set the rules for their debate and also set how the structure of them are. So if you look at the Aspen ruling, which was made in 1975, it stated that networks were not bound to equal access laws, and it was really kind of made the distinction that debates are bona fide news events. So it characterized them as that, therefore they would not be bound by the equal access laws. However, at this point, the FCC did make a distinction, and they stated that these debates must be sponsored by a third party. So often, prior to the 1975 Aspen ruling, you saw third-party groups such as the National League of Women act as a sponsor for debates. However, that's something, this decision was overturned in 1983. And in 1983, the FCC ruled that this third-party sponsorship was no longer necessary, and the networks themselves could directly put on and sponsor these debates. So ultimately, the motive we do acknowledge from the FCC was to increase the number of events which would allow the public to have more information available to them. However, what we've seen is as these debates have increasingly become profitable events for the networks, you're seeing more and more of these events happening, and also because of our deregulated marketplace, the networks are able to kind of really pump up their debates and increase their marketing materials, which shifting the focus away from public information and towards driving profits. So we also need to consider the legal restrictions on our solution of eliminating super PAC. We do believe that there is no legal restriction on restricting these ads. As a private network, we're able to freely choose which network companies and organizations that we would like to allow to advertise on our network. So equal access laws do not apply to organizations and public interest groups. That's something that only applies to candidates. And we do acknowledge that we would still have to offer equal access to advertise on our network to each of the candidates, but this is not something that we need to offer to super PACs, which may be supporting a particular candidate. So as my colleague had discussed, this is something that CNN had done in the past.
Just building upon the financial and legal story, we're moving on to ethics. Throughout this presentation, we've really tried to focus on these three areas: supporting the public's need for knowledge. Primarily, CNN is an educational and public good for the people during election cycles in order to direct their attention towards areas of public policy. We feel that instead what we're seeing through financial incentives throughout the past and the legal story of deregulation is an increasingly spectator sport event that is the political process rather than that of a democratic or American duty in order to inform yourself on areas of public interest when in casting your vote. So we think that CNN really needs to reaffirm its role as a gatekeeper of information in what it chooses to put on its network. Also, this builds on its own internal code of corporate social responsibility and its ethical responsibility to its shareholders to create an objective niche in the market and reaffirm its status as the objective news source for Americans in order to increase its revenue.
So a major component of Time Warner's competitive advantage would be their concept of leading responsibly. So Time Warner, as an ethical news source, believes that they need to follow the values of integrity in their journalism, diversity in their viewpoints, as well as the creative freedom that they encourage. And through these, they can build an ethically responsible way that they broadcast their news. We believe at this time that they are not currently upholding these values, and our solutions would move them further into the realm where they can be more socially responsible and build upon their competitive advantage to gain a market opportunity that they will see great revenues from. So the mainstream journalistic ethical standards are these as follows. We believe that currently CNN is upholding some of them, but there are a few that they specifically need to work on. So currently we believe that they are following the first to seek truth and report it. They have implemented a segment called Reality Check, where they fact check things that have been said during things that they broadcast. But we do believe that they need to focus more on acting independently and being accountable and transparent. In terms of acting independently, they need to eliminate super PAC ads, because in doing so, in marketing these ads, they're partaking in third parties' political agendas, which may not be theirs specifically. So they're really coming off as something that they may not be. And additionally, we believe that they should be more accountable and transparent to desensationalize their coverage of these debates. You can see in this ad on the side, it almost looks like a wrestling match or a movie poster sensationalizing this whole Democratic debate. And CNN is the gatekeeper of public information, so they really need to uphold a more socially responsible viewpoint for their viewers. So as I said earlier, I just want to touch a little more on CNN's fact-checking segment. So CNN currently does do this. They have a fact-checking segment where they check into what has been said on their coverage, but we think that with our implementations, this shows that they are open to making changes to be more socially responsible, and we believe that they will be open to our changes and our recommendations to gain this market opportunity that they have in front of them and to increase revenues through that.
Impacts of the solution, we feel that if this were to be implemented across CNN, we would see successful changes. So primarily it would be very important to increase democratic knowledge and add to the public discourse of areas of public policy, the debate process, making coverage that is less about a popularity contest and more about substance, provide more accurate information, no longer taking part in ads that flout the truth, take things out of context and then put it out there for people to believe. More socially responsible, understanding our role as one of the most prestigious networks on the air and doing so in a manner that adds to our mission as a network, and also provide business opportunities. We feel as though the market is heading towards detachment from the political process due to this sensationalized coverage, and we feel as though by being the first to market against this, no longer becoming the ringmaster in the boxing match of public policy would create further profit incentives and also add to CNN's brand image. So this could be done through aligning our reporting standards and add to our competitive advantage as a network.
We thank you for your time, and at this time we welcome any questions that you may have.
I have a question for you. What's the difference between a presidential campaign and the Super Bowl?
I think that there's the large distinction of that is our democratic process relies on presidential campaigns, and it relies on people going to the polls, making an informed
Less than
decision.
half the people ever vote.
Well, but I think
More than that, watch the Super Bowl.
more than that. Well, and I think the distinction though is that we need to realize that even if it's half the population, those people are also making up a large part of our audience. So our audience are those that are going to go to the polls. So we have a specific responsibility to our audience because not only are they watching our network, but they believe our network to be one of the most helpful and resourceful places to get information about this process. So if we neglect on our duties, we ultimately feel that people won't be coming to our network anymore. So the distinction is that although it may seem like both of these, the Super Bowl and these political processes, have now become entertainment, because there is that reliance on a decision which our democratic process really stands upon, if we begin to kind of go towards that and just allow this to become the next Super Bowl, we're going to lose that audience, and that audience won't be coming to us anymore.
And more importantly, we're going to be losing the voting standards and the history of the United States and the integrity of our government, which I think adds to CNN's corporate social responsibility and their obligation as a business.
And we'll be losing more and more money, and we'll be off the air because of Fox and MSNBC and everybody else.
I think would disagree, because I think what we're really pointing to was also that the public is increasingly believing these campaigns to not be as resourceful. So I think in the immediate short term, we may see maybe some small profit losses, but ultimately what's going to happen is as people become more frustrated with this process, we do expect them to become more detached. So once the public becomes more detached, they're not going to be seeking us out, MSNBC, Fox News, they're no longer going to be watching. So we think that as the public becomes more frustrated, a market opens up for sources of information that are more objective and more balanced. So we want to be that first to market. We want to make sure that we're the ones there as the public becomes more frustrated about this process, and I can go to CNN and get this information. And I think with that though, we'll see new audiences, and our audience is going to grow, and ultimately our profits will grow.
You talk about social responsibility and socially responsible ads. Who sets the standard for that? Who makes the determination about what constitutes a socially responsible ad and what's not? And what would those look like?
So we discussed some of this throughout our process, and while we think that eliminating super PACs as a whole is best for our company, we believe that taking each advertisement on a case-by-case basis would be best, because at that time we can decide as a group, the 5 of us, what would be okay to put on our network versus what is not.
But I think you do, sorry to cut you off.
So that seems to me to be a process where now the 5 of you are taking responsibility for what you believe is a socially responsible ad. And how do you then keep your own biases out of making that determination? What drives your decision in terms of what constitutes socially responsible? And then don't we get into a very sort of gray area about that?
I think that part of the journalistic code of ethics addresses that and the need for accuracy. So I think that we can address the other individual's right to air their own beliefs, but I think that the accuracy and the transparency and where this information is coming from is the biggest issue that we think the super PAC ads contribute to. So while we're not trying to say that all advertisements on CNN are going to be what Rachel, Joe, and Amanda think, it's going to be, this is what Party X thinks, and this is how they can be held accountable for that information, and this is the transparency. So it's going to be more so about allowing corporations that we feel are not going to be deceptive in their advertising or in where their information is coming from versus Club Growth for America.
I also think key to this, though, is having a process in place for our organization, whether it be the 5 of us or another group within the organization. As long we need to develop a process if we are going to be kind of viewing these ads. And once that process is in place, we need to make it as transparent as possible to the entire organization and also to the larger community. So our competitors, the public, everyone should know kind of how does CNN determine these ads. And I think if we're transparent and accountable in that process, how we use our own process, I think we will have buy-in support from the public, and it will become a more responsible part of our organization.
And as an organization, we also need to really focus in on our mission and our values. And as we're conducting the process of deciding what commercials should and should not air, we really need to look at ourselves and look at our mission and look at our values and say, is this commercial politically charged? Does the organization that's putting it out have any sort of political bias? And then as an organization, we need to look at our mission and values and see, does airing this align with our mission and values? Is it going to impact public perception or public opinion? And then that can be also a piece of our decision-making process.
It seems to me you're making an assumption that CNN and Fox News are equal competitors, and that people will make a decision on whether going to Fox News or CNN based upon some of your arguments here. But they are not equal competitors. They are very, Fox News, for instance, is considered one end of a spectrum, the more conservative. CNN is considered the more liberal. So can you really say that it's a level playing field between the two, and that the consumer makes a decision based on anything other than their own preconception and their own political beliefs?
I do think that may contribute to it, to this decision and kind of the public's perception. But I think it's important to note kind of how CNN's traditional standing in this market, where I think we have been popularly perceived as the more balanced and objective network. But I think what we are seeing, though, is especially kind of as we've seen the leadership change within our organization, and we've kind of had an internal drive to kind of increase viewership, we're seeing CNN go into the direction more so of our other direct competition of MSNBC or Fox News, where kind of we are becoming increasingly reliant on this sensationalized journalism. So I think part of our history has always been being that balance, but I think as kind of what we're trying to do, I think a little bit, and especially in the past couple of years and within this political coverage, is kind of move in the direction of our competitors, where I think, though, we need to make ourselves distinct and continue to make ourselves, so build on our history of making ourselves distinct in the market, and while kind of everyone else zigs, we need to zag.
You all work for us, right? You're employees of the company? Not anymore. You're all fired. That's how we're going to replace the revenue from the Super PAC ads. Is that okay?
Well, I think the thing, though, that we want to point out, though, is that we note that whenever you are going to limit ads, we're going to lose we could lose potential people that have relationships with the business. But what we think, though, is because of the built-in audience share that we have right now within our debate coverage, that these will easily be replaced by our traditional advertisers. So people that are already advertising with our networks, we do think the market right now is really, people are looking to advertise with us, they're looking to be part of CNN, and we're not necessarily limiting revenue sources, we're just shifting them. So I think, again, we've made similar decisions in the past when we've limited the energy ads on our network, and we didn't see a significant drop off of revenue. We didn't have to have any layoffs. We're just shifting our advertising, we're making it more socially responsible.
Oh, but that's not nearly as much fun as Donald Trump insulting everybody. People tune in to see those kinds of ads.
I think people do, but I think also too, we're not saying that the individual candidates can't put ads on our station. What we're really trying to do is we're making sure that these ads are coming from sources where people, our viewers know where this information is coming from. So because of them relying on this information to be part of our democratic process, they need to have clear and accountable information about what they're seeing on our screen. So even, we're not saying that a charged image isn't okay to have on our network. But what we're saying is that if we're going to be showing these charged images and these messages, our public needs to know where they're coming from. So I think
Maybe we could charge Marist College for the poll results that they put out. How about that? Could we do that?
Well, I think we would love to bring Marist in. I think we pay for our polling right now, but Marist I think is the best polling in the marketplace. So I think we can really, bringing them on board might be another solution to make us more profitable.
You know, I want to get back to sort of the social responsibility and you know what that entails. You know, a lot of news organizations are, even if it's a number of steps down in the corporate chain, are really reporting to their entertainment divisions. And news has become a big entertainment business. People, the demographics of folks who select the news stations that they watch, they self-select. Clearly, just by virtue of what you presented to us today, you know, people have very strong political biases. People are going to watch the networks that they want to watch based upon their political biases, not because they want objective reporting, or at least that's most of the demographics that self-select in watching stations, as evidenced by other competing news stations. So in terms of you know, shifting away, and you've identified just eliminating super PAC advertising, where do you draw that line? Where do you draw the line? Do you say then it's okay for, you know, PACs to advertise with us at CNN, individual people who can afford to buy political advertising? So where do you draw that line? And I'm not sure that just being transparent solves that issue. You know, where do you make that line about what you feel is ethical advertising versus unethical advertising? What's your criteria there?
I think ultimately what we need to be, we're responsible for putting the truth out to our public. So I think that truth criteria is one of the main ones that we really, when we're evaluating these ads, we need to be looking at. So is this something that is deceptive to our public? Is this actually an accurate reflection of either a candidate's stances or the news events that may have transpired? So I think truth should really be the guiding factor for these decisions.
And CNN already has that infrastructure in place, as you can see from their reality check segment. So this is already a huge part of CNN's branding to its publics, and maybe used as a tool to draw more people as the political spectrum gets more polarized. I think people are going to start questioning where can I get the actual information or the truth. And I think that CNN already has the traditional history and the infrastructure to draw that crowd.
And just to speak a little bit further to your point about viewers that are looking to kind of have their programs match their own partisan stances, I think though, to look back at some of the public polling data though, you are seeing people that are increasingly not finding these sources useful. So we actually think that there may be a new market out there that aren't necessarily watching, whether it be our network, Fox News, MSNBC, and that's also the pool of viewers that we want to tap into.
This whole issue that we're talking about takes place within a certain window. Some might say it's 12 months, however long you want to include the density of the the presidential election. And the consumer market has been shown to have a lot shorter attention spans, unfortunately, than ever before, and it's only going to continue contracting. Let's say that now it's the 3 years after the debates. We got this reputation of whatever you say we have. isn't the public going to just forget? And how can we become this leader when the public, after the election, they're going to forget, and they're just going to go back to CNN, they're going to go back to Fox. Why should we be a leader for such a very short time when it's questionable if we're going to have a long-term effect?
Well, I think it's also important to note that we have our exciting and original programming. So I think also if we're bringing in these viewers during the political process and we're kind of getting a reputation of being an objective and balanced network, we create a good relationship with our viewers, which also we can use that to couple and attract viewers to our exciting original programs, such as Anthony Bourdain's Parts Unknown. And we think also we have strong confidence within our original programming division that there are some great new shows that are coming out of it. So we think that as we draw these viewers in, we're able to sustain these viewers throughout the next 3 years, 5 years, because of our original programming. So we want to create that good relationship with our viewership. But I think also too, when we consider our news coverage throughout whether it be after this political process ends, we want to still maintain that balanced and objective perspective. So if we look at kind of our coverage of the Malaysian aircraft that
CNN had a segment every day for about a month and a half about the Malaysian missing plane.
Yeah, so I think it is something that we want to move away from those sensationalized stories, and we'll have that throughout our news coverage. Will be known to our viewers as a balanced and objective network, but then we're going to keep them there with our original programming.
People are going to stay and watch Anthony Bourdain.
Well, I think Anthony Bourdain right now is one of them.
Watch it.
People are really eating up that program, but like I said, though, we think that
Unintended.
we think that there's really some exciting programming coming out of that division, which will really be profitable for our network.
Okay, well, I think if any judges have any more questions? No? If not, take a deep breath. Good job. Feedback time. I'm dazzled that you had no notes. You have obviously prepared well. Good job. You all are comfortable speaking to an audience, especially responding to very tough questions from us. But those are the kinds of questions you get from boards of directors. They're not necessarily respectful, they're busy people. And you did a great job, so I think you're on track. Well done.
Yeah, I applaud you for taking on such a charged subject. This was a hard one, tough sell. So let's see, I do have just a couple of feedback I wanted to give you. And maybe this was just because it took me a few more minutes to get into the role that I was supposed to be in, but I would have loved to have you spent about 30 more seconds just clarifying what our role was. It took me a couple of heartbeats to get into, oh, okay. And I even had to look at my sheet and go, okay, I'm the board of directors. So, and I think you did a beautiful job afterwards in terms of how you presented it, but there was just that initial sort of minute at first that I was just a little unclear about what you were and what our role was. And let's see. I think that in terms of the ethical dimension, you did a good job in terms of setting forth what you thought your recommendations would be. I would have loved to hear more about, because I'm sure when you picked this topic, you really had some significant discussions about what you thought the ethical dimensions and the implications would be for this. So I would have loved to have heard just a little bit more about not just what your recommendations would be from a social responsible position, but really ethically why you think this is a good thing for CNN to do. Okay. So, great job. Thank you.
I agree. I think you really took a complex and very interesting and very timely topic and looked at it from some very interesting ways. And I sit here and I think, oh, that's right, these are undergrads, this is graduate level work. Yeah. So I think that the way that you really looked into it. There's a thing called spurious relationship, and I'm not sure you can make an argument that given that we are 7% of Turner Broadcasting, that we can affect the share price that much. I'm not sure I can agree with that argument. So just be careful going forward when you're in debates and when you're in situations like this. It looks fun to be able to talk about effect on share price, but unless you're Johnson & Johnson and it's the Tylenol scare and things like that, you really can't make that kind of statement. But I know those kind of things are attractive to try and do.
Can we stay on the share price for just a second?
Yeah.
I was confused by the graphs that you showed. Where you showed a slight uptick.
Would you like me to?
Sure. And then the rest of the chart shows a steep upswing in the pricing.
So I think that you might be able to explain this a little bit better, but I think that was really the point, is that we wanted to show there may have been that uptick, but then it was just the natural trajectory of the stock.
Yeah, so the uptick was just right here, and then the natural growth of the stock has continued throughout the past several months. So,
But I don't know what the y-axis is, so I don't know how much of an increase that really is.
Yeah, that's a,
yeah, that's it.
That's a
They
good point.
label your stuff better. They label you.
Yeah.
Some of them you had really well labeled, but I
Yeah.
was lost on this one.
This one, I think it was a little bit difficult because bringing that breakdown then from Turner to CNN,
Sure.
I think throughout the entire financial part was a challenge.
Yeah. If I could follow up on Lisa's comment about not knowing exactly who we were, it was reinforced by your continually talking in third person about us. You kept saying they. And so it sounded like a academic kind of presentation. It's we, it's you. And so I felt left out, like you maybe gave this presentation down the street to somebody else. When as a board member, I want to think that you created it just for me and for us. So be very careful going forward about how you refer to your audience. Audience analysis is huge. I'm going to go one step beyond judge here, and not going to include this in judging because I happen to be a person who's taught presentation skills for about 15 years, and I teach that at the same time. So I'm your worst critic, but I want to tell you right now that I'm not going to include this because I always, Amanda, don't lean.
Sorry.
Ben, don't have your hands in your pockets. The little things that you do are so huge. They're called micro behaviors, and you want to be so careful about that kind of thing. What you are doing right now during Q&A is perfect. Have your hands in front of you, you can put them behind you, that sort of thing. But trust me, going forward, these are things people will notice. And I take a lot of points off in my class.
Great feedback. You can't buy that kind of feedback.
Yeah.
I'm curious, why did you decide to be employees of CNN in doing the presentation?
I think when we first met, you mean in terms of rather than being like a marketing advisor or something along those lines, I think that when we first met, we kind of decided to find a topic that had some sort of relevance to public spectatorship of politics, having 2 political science majors on the team, and then it just sort of naturally went into the networks, and then we kind of decided on CNN as being the perceived objective one. And then we kind of went into how we can internally change what they're putting on air.
But specifically as employees, I think we wanted to show that this is something that has support throughout the entire organization, and I think that would generate kind of help the persuasion to the board of directors that not only is this something that people from the outside of the organization are seeing, this is something internally that we see this as an opportunity, and we want to push our organization forward to kind of capitalize on that.
And why Candidates with a K?
Keeping up with the Kardashians.
Cute.
I'm glad you asked her the same question.
On your PowerPoints, you had down at the bottom what we call the cookie trail, which is the top. Where'd you get that from?
I made it.
You knew about the concept? Oh, see, it's great. No, I love that. It helps, it helps your audience stay focused. And we use them too. I just thought maybe you stole it from St. Thomas. No, very, very nicely done. I felt like I was really in touch with where the presentation was. And in an era where audiences are busier and busier, their minds are a lot more scattered. And so putting something in like that to always remind them where you're at is brilliant. So, nice job.
We all commented that we're going to steal it now from Rachel for our
Good job. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Well done.
Thank you very much.